$7.5 trillion. $7.5 trillion. I know the government throws around, the state-run media has convinced people that a trillion is just another number. It's not a big deal. We don't talk about it. I thought a billion was a big deal. It's huge. Let me ask you a question. I'll ask Seth.
Yes, Dan.
To give me his answer.
Yep.
If you had $1 trillion and you spent $1 every second, 24/7, every year, how long do you think it would take you to spend that $1 trillion?
You know, Dan, my wife was a math teacher, so I should know this because I married a math teacher. I don't know, but I assume it would take a very long time.
Come on, give me a year.
Let's go 100 years?
No.
1,000 years?
No.
10,000 years?
No.
1 million years?
35,000 years.
Wow.
35,000.
Wow.
It's a little under that. It's 34 something or other.
Holy smokes.
35,000 years. Think about it. And that's what $1 trillion is. And that's $1 every second. 35,000 years. It's not a small number. I don't even know how even the federal government can spend that kind of money. But listen to this. 7.5 trillion in 6 months. 7 months, I'll say. Been added to our national debt. When I share with you, I'm going to do some of this. I'll give you some of these numbers during our conference call today, but it's insurmountable. So if you remember my talking during the latter part of the Obama years, I said, and I was speaking mathematically from my analytical perspective, that 2013 was the last reasonable year that we could have grown ourselves out of debt. And if you remember during the Trump years, and I took a lot of heat for this, but I was just trying to, it had nothing to do with my support, and everybody took it that way. It had nothing to do with my support for President Trump. All I was indicating was that the president, unbeknownst to him, had been sold a bill of goods from Steve Mnuchin and others that we were going to grow ourselves out of the economy. If you go on Town Hall and you search under my name for contributing editors, or you will find a columnist, you will find an article from back in 2000 and I don't know when. I'm going to say the first year, maybe it was the second year, President Trump was in office. And I wrote about Steve Mnuchin's press conference. He had a press conference where Sarah Sanders Huckabee gave him over the platform. And he was being fired questions. And there were several questions alluding to the debt. Of course, they would never do that today, but alluding to the debt. And he just said growth, 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 growth. And everything came back to growth, growth, growth. We're going to grow our way. My comments were, we're not going to grow our way out of it. We can't grow our way out of it. And I was so pleased with the growth that had been created. I was pro President Trump because finally we had a pro-growth, pro-corporate America president in office. We had somebody that cared about the American worker, somebody that cared about American corporation, somebody cared about lowering taxes and regulatory burdens. And we were going to have growth. We were going to have lots of growth. And we did. And it was going to get a lot bigger and better. No doubt about it. But the premise of my article back then was that if we don't have pro-growth and pro-smaller government, we were never going to get out of debt. Now, I made it clear that I don't care about getting out of debt. We're always going to have some debt. But could we get debt to where it's reasonable? And it was only going to happen with growth alongside of smaller government, cuts in government. We can't do it on either one of those by itself. And I believe that we passed that point in 2013. Look where we are since 2013. We're not ever going to grow ourselves out of this, and I don't think there's any intention to try. At least there was this intentional growth by President Trump's administration to help us with the debt, and it certainly would have gone a long way to help, but it wouldn't have really been sustainable enough to eventually get us to a reasonable amount of debt because we weren't slowing down at a fast enough pace our debt. Now, going back to Ronald Reagan, when Ronald Reagan was in office, he had great success in the last 3 years of his presidency with that. Why? Because he ordered. He's the president. He can do these things. He ordered every department of the government, with the exception of national defense, the Defense Department, every single department had to cut their budget by 5%. He didn't care how they did it, didn't try to mandate how they did it. He didn't care how it was going to happen. It needed to happen. And it was a mandate. Once they started cutting, it ended up being on average 7% out of every single department. They got rid of all the duplicity. They created some efficiencies and effectiveness of the government. And we had growth. It was the best period of time for the American economy. We're in big trouble now because we're never growing out of this. Hey, remember to click the subscribe button right here on the screen. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when new content is added. And more importantly than anything, you don't want to miss all 3 live hours of Financial Issues every day from 9 to noon. And you can watch it on FISM.tv. That's FISM.tv.